What is going on, everybody? It is your man, Tyler James. I am back here again with another video, and today we're going to be talking about how to break out of survival mode and get into growth mode. If you did not know, your body basically runs on two different systems. Your body, your brain, your psychological system is either going to be in survival mode or in growth mode. And when you are in survival mode, all you care about is getting some food, getting some shelter, getting some water, and just surviving the night. If I were to drop you in the middle of a deserted island, with no food, no water, no shelter, all you would be thinking about and all you would care about is surviving the next night. You wouldn't be caring about a book. You wouldn't be caring about lifting weights. You wouldn't be caring about meditating. All you would care about is just survival. And for years, our human society, our human brain, Homo sapiens, have evolved to just be able to survive and reproduce, survive and reproduce, figure out how to live through another day. That is all they cared about. And now that we're in modern society and it's 2026, we have so many luxurious things, right? We have running water, we have shelter, we have easy access to food, and easy access to a bunch of stuff that you don't need. And today, everything is just so easy. And you have to understand that even though our society has evolved to be easy and things have evolved to be easy and right at our fingertips, that doesn't mean your brain has all the way evolved, right? So the first thing to understand is that being in survival mode is hardwired into your DNA. It is literally hardwired into your DNA to be in survival mode, right? For years and eons and decades and before Christ, after Christ, whatever time period, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to go off of, we as human beings focused on just surviving and reproducing, surviving and reproducing. We really weren't focused on growth. All we wanted was some shelter, some water, and some food, and to be able to hunt and kill and just survive another day, not get killed by another tribe, not get killed by an animal. You were just focused on survival and having an offspring. That's all you cared about, right? And now as we evolved, as we've gotten, more down the line, we have had more of an ability to use our brain, to use our conscious mind, and to do some of the growth, which we're going to talk about in a second. But you have to understand your brain and your DNA, it's still hardwired to want to survive. It's still hardwired to want to survive. That's why in every situation, your brain, your mind is always thinking, how can I survive? How can I get through this? That is why it feels weird to be uncomfortable. That is why you feel fear when certain things arise. Even though it's not a life or death situation by any means, if you haven't done something before, it's unfamiliar territory. So your brain starts freaking out. It goes into fight or flight. And basically, you build up this fear and you're in survival mode. That is literally what happens all of the time. Your brain is just not used to those situations and it thinks in a life or death, fight or flight type of mode. And when that happens, you're going to feel fear. You're going to be scared, right? So you need to learn how to control your mind, to control your brain, to overcome that life or death situation, fight or flight situation, okay? And we're going to be talking about how you can do that in the growth stage. But you have to understand this is what your brain operates on. Once you understand that, it becomes easier to see the patterns and the mind stuff that comes up that is just basically your brain being hardwired and having a brain that hasn't evolved to actually grow and how society has evolved, right? There's so many situations you could even think about on your day to day where your mind and your brain literally just comes up with excuses, comes up with all of these justifications not to do something because it is fearful, because it is scared, right? And you have to understand, which is point number two, that your brain is operating off of fear and scarcity, right? When you're in survival mode, that is what you are operating off of. You are literally fearful for your life, right? Your brain doesn't know, your mind doesn't know it's not really a life or death situation, right? So you're operating off of fear and scarcity, right? Your mind doesn't know it's not actually a life or death situation. How many life or death situations do you actually encounter on a daily basis, on a weekly, on a monthly, on a yearly? Close to zero, right? You really only have one or two. I've had one I can think of off the top of my head where I almost got hit by a car and died. That's the only thing. And I was like 8 years old and I didn't see the car coming, right? You are just operating off of fear and scarcity. These situations are not life or death, right? These situations where you're deciding to do something, you're deciding to take a leap, you're deciding to make a leap of faith, you're deciding to go up and talk to a girl, you're deciding to go to the gym for the first time, whatever it is, right? Your brain and your mind is thinking like it's a life or death situation. And so it operates off of fear and scarcity to keep you safe, to keep you comfortable, right? That is how your brain works. It wants to keep you safe, it wants to keep you comfortable, and it wants to keep you in the same situation so you continue to survive, so you continue to reproduce. Even though we have evolved as a society to be in growth mode. Our society is in growth mode, but our brain is still in survival mode. That's why it's hard to overcome your mind, hard to overcome your fears, and hard to overcome these things because it's literally hardwired into your brain. And so what is happening is you're operating off of fear and you're operating off of scarcity, and you're basically in fight or flight mode, right? Now, you might not be in this mode at all times, right? But when there's situations where you have to do something unfamiliar, you might have to go talk to a girl, you might have to go to the gym for the first time, you might have to pick up the phone and do a cold call for the first time, right? Things that happen for the first time, they're so unfamiliar, and unfamiliar territory basically causes your mind to be like fight or flight, fear, scarcity, get this away from me, I'm uncomfortable, I'm scared, I'm fearful, we are going to die, right? That is what your mind is literally thinking. And once you understand that and push past it and go past it and tell your brain and tell your mind, like, this isn't a life or death situation. No matter what happens, we are going to survive, right? No matter what happens, right? And so you really have to start to understand that pattern in your mind and in your brain and understand you're just operating off of fear and scarcity, right? And the reason why you operate off of scarcity is because you're in survival mode, right? When you're operating off of scarcity, you need everything because you need to survive, right? If you are on a stranded island all by yourself, you would want as many materials as possible, as much food as possible, as much water as possible, so you can survive the longest amount of time. And you're keeping all of that to yourself so you can survive for the longest amount of time, right? But you're not on a deserted island. You're not stranded. You're not fighting another tribe. You're not trying to not get killed, right? You are in a functioning society. So you don't need to live like that, right? You don't need to always be mine, scarce, right? You have a lot to give. You have plenty to give. Okay, so you have to get out of the fear and the fight or flight and the scarcity mindset. You just have to get out of it, right? And the first step to getting out of anything is awareness and seeing the pattern within yourself. Okay, so you have to understand for number 3 is that you're gonna be okay. Your basic needs are met and you're gonna be fine, right? If you're just an average human being, an average person, odds are you probably have running water. Odds are you probably can shit in a toilet. Odds are you probably can take a shower. Odds are you probably have easy access to food. Odds are you probably can easily cook the food. Odds are you probably can have anything at the touch of a button, right? If you're an average person, that is just how it is nowadays. So your basic needs are literally met and you don't have anything to worry about. Your basic needs are met and you don't need to be in this mode, right? If your basic needs are met, then there is no point for your brain to be in this mode, but our brain has not evolved to push past that, to go past that, right? So you have to understand and tell yourself, hey, my basic needs are met. I'm going to survive. I'm going to be okay, right? So there's no need to worry about this fight or flight, this fear, this scarcity, all of this stuff because you're okay, right? You're fine. You have your basic needs met. You have what you need, right? You have a place to sleep. You have shelter. You have food. You have water. If you're watching this video, I guarantee you have all of these things, right? But your brain and your mind is still scared, especially when uncomfortable situations arise. So you have to really just understand your basic needs are met and you are not going to die, right? Until you actually die, you're not gonna die, right? You have to understand that. So there's no reason to feel this fear. There's no reason to be scared. There's no reason to have any anxiety because what is going to happen, right? Let's say you're super scared to go talk to a girl. You see a pretty girl, you're afraid to approach her, you're afraid to talk to her. And basically, because of that, your mind and your brain thinks it's a life or death situation. Like if you go talk to this girl, there's a chance you are going to die, right? That is literally what your brain is thinking. But you have to understand that that is just your brain trying to keep you safe, trying to keep you comfortable, trying to keep you in survival mode. When in reality, if you went and talked to that girl, that would be you going into growth mode. That would be you working on your social skills. That would be you getting better with women, right? That would be an area of your life where you are growing and getting better. Okay, so the right thing to do is always to go do that, but your brain and your mind is going to give you every excuse, every justification, everything in the book because it wants you to just survive. When in reality, if you went and talked to that girl, no matter if it was the greatest conversation ever, the worst conversation ever, 5 minutes later, you're still alive, you're still breathing, nothing bad really happened, right? No matter what happened in that context and in that situation, you're going to be fine. Okay, so you have to understand that your brain just is keeping you in that survival mode and not in growth mode, which is where you want to be and what we're going to be breaking down in the next point. So after you start to understand your brain patterns, how you operate in survival mode, how your brain is keeping you in the same situation because your brain wants to be comfortable, right? It wants to stay in the same situation, it wants to be safe, it wants to be comfortable. It doesn't want to be in fight or flight mode. Okay, once you understand that and your basic brain patterns, what you have to do in life and when these situations start to arise is you must feel the fear and just do it anyways, right? Feel the fear and do it anyways. Okay. And the reason why is because anything new, anything that's unfamiliar territory, anything that's uncomfortable, anything that brings about any anxiety or any fear, right? That is a situation where you're going to grow. That is a situation where you're going to get better, right? If you don't have any chance of dying, right? There's 0% chance of dying, but it might be a little scary, it might be a little uncomfortable, it might be a little weird, and it might be for the first time. Just feel the fear and do it anyways, right? Feel the fear and do it anyways. Don't get stuck. Command your legs to go walk over, to go do whatever you need to do. Feel the fear and do it anyways. Always tell yourself, right? When you have that feeling of fear and scarcity and anxiety and you're scared about to go do something, right? Understand that doing that thing is going to make you better. Doing that thing is going to cause you to grow. Doing that thing is going to give you more creative power. Doing that thing is going to push you and better yourself as a person because whenever you're in your out of your comfort zone, whenever you're scared or fearful or have anxiety or have situations that come up that might be a little difficult, might be a little challenging, that is when you get the most better. That is when you grow the most, right? So when you're starting out with anything, you have to just feel the fear and do it anyways. And I have a great example for you. When I started going to the gym about 4 years ago, I remember stepping on the weight room floor and I was just so scared. I was scared. I was scrawny. I was tiny. I had no muscle on me, nothing. I'd never really lifted before. And I was really scared it felt like for my life, right? But in reality, it was just my first time working out. I hadn't done it before. It wasn't a big deal, right? And so even though I was super fearful and super scared, I still went through with it and I still did that workout. And then guess what? I showed up the next day and then the next day, and that fear started to dissipate. It started to go away, right? The more you do something, the less fearful you are because you're more competent and you're more confident in your ability to do that thing, right? So anything you're fearful, anything you're scared of, anything you want to get better at, but you have this anxiety over, you have to just do it, right? The best way to break that fear is to get some more confidence and get to more competence in that area. Okay, so feel the fear and do it anyways. Anything you start out for the first time, you are going to be fearful over it, and you just got to feel it and do it anyways. Okay, so the next thing that is going to be helping you grow, helping you get to where you want to go, is doing stuff that is creative, right? Doing creative things, and then we're going to talk about number three, but doing creative things is one of the best ways you can grow, right? Because when you're in survival mode, all you're caring about, again, is your basic needs, your shelter, your food, your water. You're not caring about anything else, right? You're not caring about creating content. You're not caring about making a YouTube video. You're not caring about going to the gym and working out and filming it. You're not caring about building a complex business. You're not caring about doing drop shipping or FBA or real estate, right? You're not caring about any of that stuff because you're just caring about one thing, which is to survive the night, right? And so when you start to do creative things, when you start to challenge your brain and your mind, and whether it's building a business, whether it's a piece of art, whether it's drawing, whether it's writing, whatever it is, any type of creative thing, like me speaking to you guys right now, this is an example of me doing something creative because a lot of this stuff isn't even coming from really me, it's just coming through me from the universe, right? So you have to start doing creative things and get that growth factor going. You have to get your growth part of your brain going, the left side of your brain. I forget if it's left or right, but whatever it is, you have to get that side of your brain growing and firing. And you do that through some type of creative work, some type of creative thing, right? If all you're doing is you go to the job so you can make money, so you can have food on the table, and then you watch TV, and then you jack off, and then you scroll on Instagram, all you are doing is surviving. You're not thriving in life, right? And a great way to start thriving and to start challenging yourself and to start growing is by doing creative things, doing something a little outside the comfort zone, doing something a little outside the box, whatever it is, right? When you do creative things, you start to use a different part of your brain that is no longer responsible for survival, but responsible for growth. So focus on doing creative things, and more creativity will be rewarded for you, right? And again, anytime you're doing something for the first time, it's going to be hard, it's going to be weird, it's going to be awkward, you're going to feel fearful, but the more you do it, the less that happens. And you have to understand that anything new, anything uncomfortable, anything with anxiety or fear attached to it, it's just your brain being in survival mode and being in fight or flight mode and living out of fear and scarcity. Okay. So once you start to do creative things, once you start to really work that side of your brain, you're going to be more inclined to be in growth mode, right? Whenever I'm working on my business, whenever I'm posting stories, posting reels, posting content, posting videos, making YouTube videos, I feel like I am growing as a person and I'm getting better as a person. Whereas when I'm just going to my job and I'm just getting money from my job to be able to feed myself, I don't feel creative. I don't feel like I'm growing. I don't feel like I'm really doing anything of that significance. So you have to do some type of creative thing. 1 hour a day is what I would say for you guys is a good rule. Whatever that thing that you know you should be doing, whether that's creative, that's really aligned to your true core, to your true purpose, 1 hour a day of doing something creative is a good rule to have, no matter what your situation is, no matter if you have kids, no matter if you have job, no matter if you have two jobs, whatever your situation is, 1 hour a day of doing something creative, something that you really want to do, is how you are going to build that ability to grow, ability to connect with your higher self, and all of that stuff. I promise you, doing creative things is something that is really, really, really going to push yourself to get better and to get out of this survival mode and to be in growth mode. Feeling the fear and doing it anyways and doing something creative every single day are two of the best ways to be in growth mode and to get out of that survival mode, right? If you truly want to grow, if you truly want to get better, that always comes outside of your comfort zone. That always comes when you're in these fight or flight situations. That always comes when you are having a little fear, having a little anxiety, having a little doubt, whatever the situation is, whatever the emotions that arise. If it's uncomfortable, even though you know you should do it, then that is how you know you're growing. That is how you know you're getting better. Okay. So these are two great things you can do. But a third thing that you can do, and it's a saying that I love, is that you have to sacrifice in order to grow, right? You have to sacrifice in order to grow. And the reason why I'm putting this down here is because everything that you say yes to that doesn't matter is you saying no to the things that do matter. Okay. So things that don't matter are things like drinking, watching porn, watching YouTube, watching Netflix, watching sports, whatever it is. All of these things are things that honestly do not matter, right? They're not making your life any better. They're not giving you any more growth. They're keeping you stuck. They're keeping you in the same situation, right? So you have to sacrifice in order to grow. And one of the things that I sacrificed in order to grow was alcohol. I sacrificed alcohol in order to grow. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. More time, more money, more energy. On the weekends, I have the ability to actually put in work the entire weekend so I can eventually get out of the situation that I'm currently in and live a better life, right? You have to sacrifice in order to grow, right? It's just the fact of life. Everything good has come out of sacrifice. Sometimes you have to give something up, and it might be the most thing that you're holding on to the most, right? Maybe you played sports your whole life. Maybe you played basketball your whole life. And so you like to watch basketball. You like to watch NBA. This is literally an example of me, right? I played basketball my whole life. I love to watch the NBA. I still like to go to games and stuff. And that is something that is hard for me to let go of. It's hard for me to give it up. But in reality, when I'm watching this game, that is me saying yes to something that doesn't matter, saying yes to something that doesn't matter and saying no to the things that do matter, right? So you have to see what you're doing and how you are doing this on a daily basis. And you have to learn to sacrifice in order to grow, okay? Sacrifice and saying no, right? When there's situations where people just want to go do some dumb shit, want to drink, want to smoke, want to do drugs, right? That's not getting you any better. That's not getting you anywhere, right? You're just staying where you are, right? And survival mode is literally you staying where you are, you literally staying comfortable, right? So if you want to grow, you want to get better, you got to sacrifice some of those situations and some of those things and focus on the things that do matter. Say yes to the things that do matter, say no to the things that don't matter, right? That is just an outline for literally your entire life. And you just have to sacrifice in order to grow, right? One thing that I sacrifice is I sacrifice my time in order to go to the gym, in order for my muscles to grow, in order for me to have a mind muscle connection, in order for me to be in better health, right? That's something that I sacrifice in order to grow. Okay, so there are going to be different things you have to sacrifice in life in order to grow. It might be a woman. For me, I was dating a girl for 3 years in college, and I sacrificed not her, like she died, but I sacrificed that relationship in order to move to Austin, Texas, and to focus on my business and my physique. And life is different now, right? So you have to sacrifice in order to grow. That is one of the best ways to get out of survival mode and into growth mode, right? Feeling the fear and doing it anyways, having some creative time, sacrificing in order to grow. These are the best things you can do to start to live in growth mode. If all you are doing is going to a job, using that money from that job to eat, having a little apartment, having, watching TV, watching Netflix, you are in survival mode. You're not doing anything to challenge yourself. You're not getting better in any way. You're not going to the gym. You're not doing anything, right? You have to get out of this survival mode and get into growth mode so you can actually level up your life, so you can actually make progress in life, right? They give us just enough to be comfortable, to be safe, to be in survival mode, but not to be in growth mode. Being in growth mode comes upon you, and that is something you have to do, something you have to sacrifice for every single day, whether it's your time, 1 hour a day, whether it's feeling the fear and doing it anyways, whether it's, getting outside your comfort zone a little bit, sacrificing your comfort zone. All of these things are things that you can do to get into growth mode and to hyperdrive your life into success. It is your man, Tyler James. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Book a call with me below if you are struggling with some of this stuff and would like to have some one-on-one coaching, whether it's fitness, whether it's diet, whether it's life coaching.